that will come. And sometimes that process is about just touching into the body. A guy may not have the vocabulary. He has the level of feeling, doesn't have the vocabulary to say, oh, that's anxiety. It's like, no, well, say what your body's doing. Well, I feel kind of tight in my stomach. Okay, that's good. That's you touching base with your body. That's all we care about. We build the vocabulary as we go. And then, as I said about, that first quarter of the group, things start to shift. And all of a sudden it's like, I'd rather watch the Lakers game than go to the group. It's like, okay, I can understand that once in a while. I'm into the Lakers right now. But it usually means something. And so we say, bring that in. Bring in your ambivalence. And it's usually about change. I'm starting to change. I'm not sure how to be in the world this way. I'm actually seeing the world differently. I'm seeing my relationships differently. I'm actually acting a little more assertively. I'm less passive. And I'm not sure how to be like this. This is kind of weird. And so in a way, we're changing, we're altering their personal reality. And that's a point at which the guy might leave. Okay, this is right here is one of the times where we lose members of the group. And that's why we try to prevent that by saying this is likely to happen and bring it back in. And then we'll have guys tell stories. A guy will come and he miss a week and he comes back the next week and goes, I really feel like coming. And then one of the old guys will say, I once drove all the way to the group, 40 miles, and sat in the parking lot, the whole group, and left. Because I didn't want to go in for some reason. And then he would talk about why he didn't want to go in at that point. Yeah.
Can you briefly just talk about tardiness and missing group and how you address that?
Yeah, if somebody misses, usually we ask people to call if they're going to miss. If they miss and don't tell us they were going to miss, I do a phone call and say, hey, we missed you. Okay. And so I try not to be too punishing. I want guys to come, but we will talk about like, hey, you missed a couple groups. What's going on?
Like in the group.
In the group, we'll address it. Yeah, and that's part of your job as a facilitator to just kind of monitor that. But I'm also aware that this ambivalence, I don't want to take sides on the ambivalence. I want them to struggle with that ambivalence because that's important. That's a big step to say, I am going to be different. I am going to change who I am. That's big because if they can make that step, all of a sudden the group goes to a deeper level. And that's usually what happens at the next piece is their interpersonal conflict requires a kind of trust. We had a guy the other night say he was working on an issue around feeling like he had to be the savior, had to be the hero in his life, and it was stressing him out. And so one of the other group members said something, that was like he wanted to address that with him. And the guy said, shut up. I don't want to go there. And the other guy shut down. And the other guy went in a different direction about some issue. But it was obvious that we had a conflict. And one of the other group members, with about half hour left in the group, said, hey, I want to get back to this. I can see, Joe over here is really upset. And I want to hear what's going on. And Joe's like totally shut down. Like, it's okay if you guys, I'm not mad. I'm mad that the group letting this narcissistic guy take over the group. That's what I'm mad at. And it was like, whoa, okay. So we spent the next 2 sessions on this issue. And guys weighed in, and we got each of the 2 guys to talk about what was going on. And obviously there were issues that they were projecting onto each other. The one guy that had shut down didn't think the other guy was saying anything. Meanwhile, half the group was feeling supportive of the guy who was talking. And everybody said, yeah, that was a little harsh to say shut up. And so the other guy used it, and this is what group's wonderful for, the other guy used it to think about all the times in his life when he's been shushed by people. And he was one of those kind of guys that would go passive. He was an ex-alcoholic, and so he knew that that's one of the triggers to go drink. It was one of the things that came out of childhood. He was kind of like a probably ADD kid, and was always being told, you're not doing it right. And so all of that came pouring out of him. And so he used that shut up to deepen his experience of understanding where he's at, and also to see that he's in a different place now. He's no longer that little kid who's being shushed, he's standing up. So he stood up to the bully. And the bully in the group realized he was getting the projection, and we worked on that issue, and it worked issues for everybody, because everybody could relate to being on both sides of that. So that interpersonal conflict allowed the group to deepen, and everybody felt a lot closer after that. And then that's leads what I would say is into the emotional pit, which is symbolic in our group. Sort of everybody sitting in a circle. It feels like the middle is like a pit or a deep water of shame or campfire or something. It has that feel to it. When we're actually in this zone, it feels like we're sitting around a campfire. And this is where a guy will talk about his history or talk about his past or talk about some abuse or talk about something. And usually it stirs out of that interpersonal conflict. Okay, so if the group never goes here, it's going to be kind of superficial. It's probably easier to establish trust and build a supportive environment by being nice and by being the good guy. We use concepts like the shadow from Jungian psychology. We have a thing called the assassin, which is about that emotional part of you that's not playing the social rules. And so everybody at some point, when we're at that emotional pit level, we all have it said, we can go back to, when we get out of this room, we're going to be back to where we are. We'll follow all the rules of society and everything else. But for our work, for our therapeutic work, we need to go deeper and into this world that's uncomfortable and has conflict and it's scary and there may be some anxiety and anger there that needs to be expressed. Yes.
Many of these things that you're describing sound like just features of a really good therapy group.
Mm-hmm.
Do you discuss the fact that it's all men as part of the men's therapy group, or is it just the fact that it's a men's therapy group that makes it therapeutic for men?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we always are talking about that.
Okay.
I mean, that's always there. There's always a sense like that you're around a bunch of guys and that has a different feel than if it was mixed.
And is that something you as the leaders do at the outset? You push a specific agenda around that to facilitate that, or is that something that organically comes up just because it's men?
It's pretty organic, I would say. But there's times when a guy will say something and he'll kind of, you can tell, he's like saying, is this okay to say? And for the guys, and again, I think that overall, the guys that come out of this group are much better with women after they get out of the group, in the sense that they're more equal, they don't back down, they tend to express their emotions, they tend to do things that are really important. But during the group, there might be part of that process where they need to express anger at a woman, or they need to express anger that they're feeling judged, or they need to express anger that feels more safe with a bunch of guys than if there were a bunch of women in the room. They might not say the same thing. They might not go there.
So what about the,
So now that gets back to this whole thing that we started with. What about female facilitators? What do you think, let's put it out there, what do you think the advantage of having a female facilitator would be?
mother?
Get a lot of mother
But
projections. Yeah, that's it.
we've talked about this, because I would love to do this, but are they not gonna do that sharing and that anger? When I worked at a VA, there were men, we had them do an exercise about all women are blank, and they were all just so nice. I mean, and I'm like, guys, don't act like I'm not even here. I can handle hearing whatever words are gonna come out of your mouth, but, so I don't want them to hold back, but then we've also talked about it could be, it could maybe facilitate some of the emotions coming out a little quicker, because they'll feel like there might be a nurturing presence in the room.
Right. No, that's good. Other thoughts, yeah.
I know for the men, with the heterosexual men in our group, like, who do you talk to in your life? I talk to my girlfriend or I talk to my mom.
Right.
And I don't talk to anyone else.
Right. And so it might be facilitative in that sense, that guys are used to opening up in that realm. But there's a different kind of opening up, I think, that happens with all guys. Yes?
Yeah, because